Hey everybody, so in this video we're going to be talking about vectors. So if you take a look at this example from the book, we have these two ropes anchored to the ground connected to these two walls, and the Cartesian coordinates are already defined here. There's x and y and z. And if you want to define a vector, let's say going from here to here, so let's say position vector, I'll name it vector r. Let's say from A to C. So I'll go like from A to C. To denote that it's a vector, in the book you'll see like it's in bold, but then how do you write that, right? So the common notation is you just put an arrow over it, right? So that's a vector. So now we know it's a vector. A unit vector indicates direction, but the magnitude is just 1. So that's why unit, right, just 1. And to denote a unit vector, you just have this hat, right? So it's to go like vector E, letter E to denote a unit vector with a little hat over it. So these letters are reserved respectively for the x, y, and z directions. So I hat specifically is a unit vector in the x direction, right? J hat is specifically in the y direction. K hat is specifically in the z direction. So how do you define a position vector from A to C? So it's like where you end minus where you start. So in the x direction, the vector has some magnitude and some direction, right? So the direction is in the I direction. The magnitude is 8 minus 6, right? Where we end minus where we start, right? So this is the magnitude. The direction, I hat, right, in the x direction. In the y direction, there's some magnitude, right here, 6 minus 0. That's the magnitude. And then the direction in the y direction, right, j hat. That's the unit vector pointing in the y direction. Z direction, 0 minus 10. 0 minus 10, right, in the z direction, right? So that's the unit vector k hat. Just another example, let's say you wanted to go from A to B, right? So here's A, here's B. In the x direction, 0 minus 6, right? I hat. In the y direction, 6 minus 0, j hat. In the z direction, 8 minus 10, k hat, right? So let's practice some of that unit vector stuff. So let's say you want the unit vector pointing, let's say, in this direction, in the direction of from A to C. So let's call it unit vector from A to C. So I'll just call it letter E from A to C. And then for sure, as long as you put a hat, you know that it's a unit vector, right? And to get a unit vector, we want the direction, but the magnitude to be just 1. So the direction is definitely 8 minus 6, so 2 plus, and then here, 6 plus negative 10, right? So minus 10. So that's the correct direction, but we want the magnitude to be 1. So to make the magnitude be 1, just divide this vector by its own magnitude, like this. And there you go, right? So that's the unit vector from A to C, right? So it'll be like, here's an x component, say 136, 40, right? So 140. There's the x component, here's the y component, and then this is negative. Okay, if you want just another example, right, say you want from A to B unit vector, right? So then I'll just take this one divided by its own magnitude, negative 6, 6, negative 2. Over 6 squared plus 6 squared plus 2 squared. Right, so then there's the unit vector from A to B. Okay, and then vocabulary. There's something called direction cosines. So I'll just write them down. They're these quantities. Cosine of if I have some vector, let's say like here, let's say this is vector r, it makes some angle with the x-axis here, right? It makes some angle with the y-axis here. It makes some angle with the z-axis here. So these are the direction cosines, the cosine of those angles. And by definition, it's just the components of the unit vector. Let's say this is from A to C. Right? So this is the x component of the unit vector, the y component of the unit vector, the z component. So this is the x component, the y component, the z component. Right? So the units, they're dimensionless, right? They're the components of the unit vector. Right? In the direction that it's pointing. Okay, one more example. Let's say you're given the magnitude of this vector. Let's say that's 100 pounds. What is the vector force F from A to C? So say you're given the magnitude. Let's say it's 100 pounds. What is the vector? Right, because we got the magnitude. If you want the entire vector, it's just the magnitude times the direction, and the direction is the unit vector from A to C, right? This is the magnitude, this is the direction. Right? So that's the point of having a unit vector. It indicates a direction. So, right, split up magnitude and direction. Okay? Alright, thanks for listening to this video. I'll see you on the next one.